So one thing I remember clearly is you never get another chance to have your first view of the Colosseum, especially when you've been dreaming about it your whole life. And as soon as we come around this corner up here, Coach is gonna get his first view, baby. And I am excited to watch his face.
Oh, there she is. Oh, I got a smile on my face. Oh man, I'm here. I'm at the Colosseum. Man, oh man. We were very fortunate to stay in a villa that was in walking distance of the Colosseum. And as we were walking and coming down the hill, and I realized when we turned the corner, there it was. And couldn't wipe the smile off my face, just unbelievable. This beautiful, beautiful structure. Thousands of years old, and there it was for me to see. For 25 years of my teaching, I taught about the Colosseum, AP World and AP European History. What I taught the students is that the Colosseum held 50,000. It could be emptied in 15 minutes. And I mean, just a marvel of architecture and building for a time when we just can't fathom their ability to build things such as this that are still standing today. It's just really unbelievable. And for me to be here is even more unbelievable. And I'm here.
The Colosseum was not only less crowded, they actually had more of it open, which is one of the things I was the most excited about, because we got to actually see down into parts of the underbelly of the Colosseum that were all closed off by curtains and had all these people down working to shore it up, which is a good thing. I've been on that side of it, but it certainly is nice as a tourist when those things are open and you can actually see everything and imagine the animals running around and the people running around and all the elevators working all at the same time.
We're heading down to get into our gladiator suits to perform for the fans. I'm going to be the guy with the triad and the net.
I'm going to give you the thumbs up, Coach, when I got you laying down on the ground. We'll give you the thumbs up.
Why, we want to kill him?
It's actually,
no, we want him to live, right?
It's the other way around.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Thumbs up means kill him.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. I won't give you the thumbs up. Little tip is there's like 3 levels of access to the Colosseum. There's the general one. There's the one that includes going down below. And then there's the one that really includes going down below, but you have to hire a guide for that. And we had already hired like 5 guides for this trip. So we chose not to do the last one and maybe a little bit regretted it. I think we'll do that next time that I go there, and hopefully Coach goes there. We'll see how his health is.
Actually, the old ground level. This is where the dirt was.
This is where the dirt was, or the water would have been.
When they did the boat battles.
Right. Do you know when they flooded this to do the water battles, did they have to flood the whole substructure, or was the ground here?
No, it was sealed off. The substructure, the water was on top of it. Don't ask me how they did it.
No, that's a feat of engineering that we've probably lost in modern day.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, like, they had to sail these little mini boats around in here. So you had to have a decent depth. 18 inches of water.
Yeah. I saw a documentary a year or two ago on the Colosseum, and they were down in the bottom. And I was fascinated by that, and was so glad that we got the opportunity to see that. And the intricate workings of the pulley systems for the elevators and the trap doors and the way they could separate the animals from the humans and choreograph the show down below. That's what they were doing. That's fascinating. So what was your favorite thing at the Colosseum?
I think probably just the rigging that it took to, raise the sails and secure shade, and the Navy controlled everything. It's not like today's civic events where it was controlled by outside private resources or whatever. That was about it.
I think the kids,
really impressive.
Yeah, when I taught and we talk about the Colosseum, the kids were really impressed that they didn't grow up in an era with the first covered stadium. And they were like, "You're kidding me." No, covered stadium's been around for quite a long time.
Yeah.
So, the Romans had a leap on the Astrodome.
What did you think about that mock-up we saw in the museum at the Colosseum? Oh, it's a pretty impressive building, huh?
Absolutely, and it added to viewing the Colosseum itself. With that, and then the idea, you're standing right there on what the mock-up's about, and and be able, I just was excited to touch a piece of marble that 2,000 years ago people were putting their hands on almost every day, and never thinking 2,000 years from now this big ugly guy from Florida is going to be rubbing his hand on. I mean, that's the kind of thing historically that I just get excited about, that those things are still there, and I hope another 2,000 years from now there's another group touching it saying the same thing.
So a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. I ran into this guy.
Heading for the hill.
To the hills! To the hills. Oh.
The other thing you want to do with a ticket besides buy the extra access is to buy the combined ticket, because right next door is Palatine Hill, and there's so much to explore there, and so many generation after generation after generations buildings on top of one another, and then as they dig more and more out of it, they find more things. Like recently they found the floor where Caesar was actually killed, and he never really did say et tu brute, but I'll let Coach explain that to you a little bit more.
Caesar died on the floor of Pompey's temple, his father-in-law. Like I said, the Senate was being refurbished with new drapes, and it didn't meet. It met in the temple. Caesar did not say et tu brute. Caesar's first stab wound was in his throat. He couldn't speak. What Caesar did when he got the first stab wound is he took his cape and he draped it over his head and he ducked down. And all 23 conspiring senators had to stab him at least once. So Caesar was stabbed 23 times, once by each senator. Brutus happened to be one. Now, history says there's a very, very possibility that Brutus was Caesar's son. Caesar had been with Brutus's mother when he was conceived. So often they always thought Brutus was Caesar's son.
One of the best things about taking 3 historians to a historical place is that you have some great discussions, and some of my favorite moments were where we would just carve out some time to sit in the shade, sit on a historical piece of a ruin that they hadn't put back into place, and discuss history. And sometimes the history was about what we were actually looking at, and sometimes with Coach he just goes and teaches you about history in general, and those are fun, and we had a great time doing that. I think what you're talking about, the little field or the little area that they've been excavating where Caesar was killed, I believe it's in that complex that's in between.
Because they found the tiles of the floor, the mosaic.
It was Pompey's temple.
Yeah.
Pompey's temple.
So they found the mosaic on the floor, so they think they're in the right, like he was killed right there.
While I love traveling with my friends, sometimes I wish Bear was here with me because he's always got such sage advice.
I didn't get to go on this trip, but I know when we went to Italy a couple years ago, it was about the same time. And one of the things that I found that was important was to stay cool. And there's a couple of ways to do that. One of the best ways is to actually drink the water. There are all these little water fountains everywhere, and it may look scary, like you shouldn't drink it, but we drank it plenty, and it was fine. Another thing to do is to either find air conditioning or find a cool place to sit. And one of the places that we found was by Palatine Hill, and it was really cool. It was almost like natural air conditioning. There's this waterfall thing that's inside of this building. But if you stand right outside the building, it kind of brings cool air, and it was a nice place to sit by.
One of the primary reasons to have water here, besides something to drink, is it's a nice cooling agent. So they'd actually have fountains and things that would be underneath the roof, and then you'd feel the coolness of the water that's coming from the mountains, and it would cool you down. You could have a nice respite in the middle of a hot day like right now, and we're just enjoying some of nature's air condition hugging onto here so we could get in the shade, and enjoying Rome very much.
And then finally, the best way to stay cool is to go find some gelato. It's everywhere. And that will not only keep you cool, but also make you very happy.
This is our group, and we are enjoying Rome together, and it's a beautiful day. There aren't a lot of crowds, so it's a little bit crowded in here, but the last time I was here, it was like bumper to bumper. So it's kind of nice to not have all the crowds here, right, Coach?
And a beautiful day.
Right, they
Got a
reserved
cool
it for
breeze.
Coach.
Yeah, we've had beautiful weather since we've been here. And I am at the base of the Forum, which is kind of unbelievable, but I'm here. One of the fun things is we were down in the Forum, and during the Forum we had music the whole time. When we came up out of the Forum, we came right into the middle of a party. It was the Roman Marathon, and they had music playing, and it was a party. We had a ball. We were dancing and singing. After playing golf my whole life and coaching high school golf for about 12 years, got to ride in one of the most fancy golf carts I've ever seen with a Roman named Mario. And Mario took us to places most tourists don't get to go. Went to the Spanish Steps, which is very common. He took us down back alleys and showed us the Emperor's Summer Palace, and overlooking the Forum from the backside. Just things that most people don't get the opportunity to see. And it was great. It was absolutely wonderful. And we ended up at the fountain where I threw a coin, and this is the fountain Trevi, where you throw a coin in over your left shoulder and you make a wish. And it means if you do this, you're supposed to come back. So I'm battling cancer stage 4. I'm hoping, my wish is that I come back in 5 years and do this again. That means I'll be alive.
I think that landed in the perfect spot. Wish granted. One of the things that I loved about renting the golf cart and having a driver was that we got to see all of these parts that I might not have even seen during my 32-mile hike. And many of them were absolutely beautiful, and some of them were actually places that, according to Mario, a lot of people didn't even really care about anymore. And I think that's kind of ironic, but also kind of sad. One instance of this was really particularly important, and I thought it was super cool.
See this rione or neighborhood, so this is called Ludovisi because of that. And there was this huge property right here, so this was part of it. And in their garden, they had this huge bust of Alexander the Great. And this is 2,000 years old.
Actual bust?
This is in the middle of the street. You have the bust of Alexander the Great, 2,000 years old. No one gives about this, actually.
No, I know. Yeah.
No one knows about this, but this is something. I mean,
This is amazing.
we are outside of the wall, so it means that we're outside of the city. Not now. This is the city center nowadays, but
Right.
in the 1600s, that's the period I'm talking about. The Borghese family,
The Borgheses, yeah.
they decided to have their summer home right outside of the wall, right outside of the city, right here. There was nothing here but
Oh, this was their home.
the park. This park is not just a park. I mean, it's 220 acres. This is the double of the size of Vatican City itself. This park, this was their private home.
And it was quite a home. There were actually all these different structures, and I'm not even sure which one of them was the home. I think it's the thing that was converted into a restaurant at the end. I remember we tried to get reservations last minute to that restaurant the first time we were there, but it was quite expensive and you had to get reservations way ahead of time. But this park is beautiful, and one of the things that's the most beautiful about it is the view overlooking the city.
Unbelievable, man.
Yeah, nice. You want
Some of this impresses me more sometimes than the forum, you know what I'm saying? I mean, the forum was absolutely wonderful and I wanted to be there, but this, look at this. Everywhere you look, as far as your eyes can see, is history, an old history. Middle Ages, pre-Christ. Unbelievable.
The views there were absolutely amazing, but there was one more that was a little bit more iconic that we wanted to work our way over to. And so we went through all these windy roads, and I was glad he was driving and I wasn't just trying to recognize the name of all of the streets, because that can be quite complicated. But we did arrive at the Spanish Steps, which are actually the French Steps. There is a French church up on the top, and the steps were made by Louis XIII, it turns out. And we just enjoyed ourselves very much. One thing I really like about this vantage point is you can see like all the way down through town. And in Rome, every I think 10 feet, the name of the road usually changes because it takes this little jig or jog or whatever. And so you can get lost really easy and have a great time doing it here. But there are some really straight roads that you can find when you have one of the tourist maps or whatever. And I had to do that on my 32-mile day, is just finally find a couple of these long ones, and then you figure out how the hell to get home. We may not have walked quite 32,000 steps on our first day in Rome, but we did end up getting about 16,000 steps in. And one thing about walking around on vacation, whether it's the fresh air or just burning calories, there seems to be a lot more pep in your step. And that was very true for our coach and Lindsay. But I was glad that we got to drive around in the golf cart for some of the longer expanses, because while there's something around every corner in Rome, there's distance between some of the more major sites. And we were going to the last of our major sites for the day, which was absolutely amazing and was not Augustine's mausoleum. It was actually the Pantheon.
The Pantheon is my favorite monument, I'm biased. That was built during the time of Hadrian. I mean, the first one was a wooden temple that burned down, and they just made a concrete replica of it, and it is crazy. They can't understand even nowadays how they built it. I mean, they guessed something. But you spotted the dome. Now it's like a UFO. We saw the dome from the terrace over there in Villa Borghese, right? That dome is the largest unsupported dome ever built in the human history. Still. That thing was built 1900 years ago. 120 after Christ when this was completed. 43 meters in diameter, 43 meters of height. It is a gigantic sphere. It represents the universe, the perfection all the pagan gods. Pantheon, in fact, means all the gods in ancient Greece. So that thing over here, this represents the perfection. Still, Michelangelo came over there in order to study how to build a dome. All the main architects of the time, they just came over there in order to study how to build a dome, learning from Romans. And he was like, Michelangelo was like, this is more the work of angels, not humans.
And as angelic as we thought we were, humans need food. And luckily in Rome and in Italy in general, there are restaurants on literally every single corner. We must have passed by thousands of regular sit-down restaurants, neighborhood bars, and some places that had really, really good street food. Of course, there's pizza and gelato and a little thing called soupli that I loved. This is actually a rice ball with like marinara in it and cheese, and it was absolutely delicious, but we wanted to get back closer to home. I brought in my food consultant on this one. I will tell you, Brendan, that traveling with someone who needs food right away can sometimes be good and I guess sometimes be bad. The bad I'll get out of the way first. Sometimes if you've got to eat right away and you're going to a lot of touristy areas, then you end up settling for the places in the touristy areas. And I know we ate at one place right near the Colosseum, and it was our worst meal when we were there. And that kind of held true. The worst meals we had while we were there were definitely right there in the touristy areas. But sometimes it's a good thing. We actually had some of the best meals when we were on Coach's trip on a small little restaurant that was right around the corner. Like essentially we came downstairs from where we were renting our flat and it was right over here. And Coach absolutely loved that guy and that food. But just up there is the window to our Airbnb, and right across we've got this beautiful archway into a church courtyard. That's absolutely wonderful. And when we were walking down here, because the numbering system was a little bit strange, Coach had some time to sniff us out a great restaurant. And so we just had a really great meal in there, but I wanted to show you guys a little bit of what it looks like inside and its name so you can try it. And I'll give you a link in the bottom for the Airbnb also, which is absolutely wonderful and could sleep probably 6 to 8 people, although we're just spoiling ourselves and it's only sleeping 3 in our case.
The food was just fantastic, all fresh, but I got to give a shout out to our friend Omar. Omar ran the little restaurant right down the street from us. It was what you would think of as an Italian restaurant, 6, 7 tables. It was everything you thought it would be, and his food was off the charts. So a big shout out to you, Mar. Love you, man.
I am having pork, real Italian spaghetti, and wonderful potatoes that have been soaked in olive oil with some rosemary, and it's absolutely delicious. Great meal. And I picked a restaurant.
He did. And I was glad that he did, because it kind of felt like home. It didn't hurt that it was only a few feet essentially away from our door, but Omar was really inviting and he was really accommodating, and everything always cost the same unless he gave it to us free, which he did one time.
Yeah, that guy looks nice and looks like some really good food. I remember when we went, we had some really good meals. Like everything just, you could tell that almost like they cared about their food more. It was more fresh. They didn't have all the same like preservatives and stuff that we have in the States. And that really made a difference. I absolutely love some of our home cooked meals. We would go and get the gnocchi and then fry it up on the pan as long as you weren't breaking the oven.
We'll have to tell you that whole story sometime. And just, no, never mind, I'll tell you now. If there's this weird glass thing that looks like it's folded down on top of an oven in Italy, it's supposed to fold back up. And if you don't fold it back up, it has a tendency to explode. So, I can't really show you any pictures of that. We weren't recording back when we went there, but I can tell you that you will see Positano at a later date, and it was in Positano, and I did think about that while I was over there. But the food that we cooked was really awesome. The restaurants we went to were well, and I didn't have any allergy problems when I was there because they use less pesticides. Everything seems to be more farm to table, and you tend to shop at the veggie shop, and you shop at the pasta shop, and you shop at the meat shop, and man, that's part of why I really want to live there. I could live there tomorrow if the situation was right. One of the things that I've noticed about Coach at the museum is that he has a hell of a sweet tooth. So now that we're in Italy, we just keep feeding him sweets. We're feeding him all sorts of good things too for his family. But he definitely gets his sweets in the morning, which is nice.
Next to the Vatican, so this makes this a holy cannoli.
The holy cannoli.
Holy cannoli.
All right. Cheers to holy cannolis.
This is the highlight of the trip here to Rome. I'm at the Vatican, and I'm dying to get into the Sistine Chapel. I've taught about it. There's a real long story, but in kind of summarizing it, we do this in America. Back in the day, they did this. Michelangelo did not want to paint the Sistine Chapel. Michelangelo didn't consider himself a painter. Basically, Julius II told Michelangelo, if you want to live, you'll paint the Sistine Chapel. There's a panel, one of the last panels that I want to see. It's Julius II sitting on a throne with his long white beard, his long white hair, and on each shoulder is a cherub. And the cherub on the right shoulder has his hand over, and he's basically flipping off the Pope. So I really want to see if that's absolutely true. I've read about it, studied it, but I want to see if it's true. And I'm here today to find out. But I can't not talk about the weather. It is absolutely beautiful. It's 70 degrees, it's sunny, it's a cool breeze. The 3 days we've been here, it's been absolutely perfect, and it just keeps getting better. But I'm here where I wanted to be, and I'm awful pleased to be here.
While almost the entirety of everything we saw in Rome was not crowded due to COVID, the Vatican was the exception. We booked a very early tour, and definitely take the tour. It's kind of overwhelming if you didn't take the tour. It's not just the architecture, and it's not just a lot of the things that you think of when it comes to the Vatican. I didn't even see any cardinals or anything. The most astounding thing in the Vatican is the museum, and there is just art everywhere. You could probably spend 5 days looking at every piece of art that's there. And while I'm normally like a big statue guy, as you can probably tell, I was actually really more taken with the map room, and there were these amazing old globes, and maybe it's just that my wanderlust is growing now that I'm a YouTuber, but those were absolutely amazing to me. There were paintings. They even had Raphael painting a lot of the rooms in the small chapels and meeting areas. And then of course, the Sistine Chapel, which is just all art, and the stories are amazing. The amount of art is overwhelming. So instead of sitting here and trying to talk you through all of it, which I would have a propensity to do, I figure we'll just do a little slideshow here and you guys can jam out for a minute.
Believe it or not, the Vatican, I was more excited about the Vatican Museum. Yeah, it's just unbelievable artifacts, and so many of them. It would take you 3 weeks to look at the items in there. The other thing was, I was dying to smell the Sistine Chapel. And when I got the opportunity to take my mask down and get a big whiff, it was Chanel No. 5. Some woman had on Chanel No. 5, and that's what the Vatican smelled like.
I hope you liked our video on Rome, and I know you liked Coach. He's always making friends, whether it's through a television or at the museum or all the thousands and thousands of kids that he taught growing up. If you're one of them, comment down below and let me know what you liked about both this video, and tell me a story about Coach, because I'm sure those are going to be really encouraging to him, and he's going to be checking those comments all the time. Also, please like and subscribe this. We want to get it out in front of as many people as possible, because there's always a possibility that we're going to do more of these, and we're even thinking about turning it into a non-profit. So the more you share it, the more we're able to share the world with other people. And remember to find yourself on the journey.